Hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 50-plus job sites, including Craigslist and social networks like LinkedIn and Facebook, all with one click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Post a job free at ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Mike.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Greeny. Thanks for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Here's what we have for you today. In recognition of Media Day, things got a little weird here. You will hear how, and you will hear the great Dan Marino on our set and the always hilarious Seth Meyers.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
And once again, we have lived through another Media Day. Thank goodness.
Yeah, they're special.
I remember a time, my first Media Day was in 1993. Cowboys and 49ers. Deion Sanders was the big story, and that was actually worthwhile. I thought that there was a lot of good stuff that came out of that, and there was a little bit of silliness. And then over the many years that I've been going to Media Day, the percentages started changing. It started being a little more silliness, a little less good football, a little more silliness, a little less good football, up until the point that it became almost all silliness and no football, and that was when I stopped going.
Yeah, I'm somewhat happy we don't go anymore, but to go there and see the circus would be interesting as well. I got to the point when I first started going to them, I would anger the likes of you at it, because when I first started going there, I would do kind of bits there, kind of a little kind of a show type of a thing for NFL Tonight as it was back then, not NFL Live. Then, we started carrying the Media Day Live, myself and Mike Tirico, and Susie Colbert, we'd be doing it live there, and what would anger the likes of you guys that were there in mass, we would get all the players one-on-one. So while you guys are all trying to answer questions, we'd get our little area with our little force field around it. We'd get to talk to the guy one-on-one, and then they'd go on their way. So the term to use is we Bigfooted all you guys, and that was, I enjoyed that. I did enjoy that, I'm not going to lie, but we haven't gone to that now in a few years. We tested you. 1 year, we let you have at it. And you did it. You did a great job. You get all the way to the front. You get your questions in. You proved to all of us, hey, you can go do that if you want to. And now, wash your hands of it and move on.
Well, Bill Belichick, I remember one time at one of the year they played Carolina in the Super Bowl, whatever city we were in all those years ago, I got like 4 questions in a row into Belichick, and he told me the last one was stupid.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Who the heck knows? Anyway, one way or another, we got through it. And I have 2 observations that came out of yesterday's Media Day. One of them is completely unimportant, and the other one is much more important. We'll save the important one for a moment. Let's start with the far less important one.
Okay.
The Marshawn Lynch rule is outdated and pointless. Just tell him to keep his hands to himself when he goes into the end zone, and outside of that, leave him the hell alone. No one's purposes are being served by having Marshawn Lynch sit there for 5 minutes and repeatedly say, I'm just sitting here so I don't get fined. He's now making commercials, not 1 but 2 of them, mocking the notion that he sits there.
Right.
It's just pointless. This is a rule that was created at a time when the National Football League and all sports desperately needed media attention. Have you watched Media Day lately? They seem to be doing just fine in that area.
They do.
The Super Bowl ratings and the business of the National Football League will not be impacted one iota by whether Marshawn Lynch speaks or not and whether he is insightful or not. At the end of the day, that whole thing is just completely ridiculous. Why the reporters who were there allow themselves to be, for no other word, just completely humiliated by asking those questions.
Because I agree with you. Don't change the rule. Why change the rule? The rule isn't for Marshawn Lynch. The rule's for everybody. So as soon as they change the rule for Marshawn Lynch, the next guy that doesn't want to do anything, a star, may do the same thing to not talk. Leave the rule there. Don't go talk to him. Quite honestly, I put it on the reporters.
No, but
they're the ones going asking the questions when you know he's going to answer.
But the rule is that he's going to get fined if he's not there.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
No, I have no problem with it at all. Zero problem.
Why should
As
a player be fined if he doesn't
same thing I
feel like
told to
talking?
Michael Smith that you said is you don't do it for that person, you do it for the next person that says, oh, he's not getting fined and getting away with it. Now I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to do it.
And then what happens?
And then you have guys that just don't want to talk and don't do it.
And does the world stop spinning on its
it
axis?
doesn't.
I mean, why is this so important? What is it a football player has to say that is so important we all need to hear it?
It's the biggest game of the year, and they're the participants in it. If you don't want to talk, fine. Listen, I go between the 2 sides of one saying he's unprofessional, the other saying, hey, do what you want to do. But you know what? The rule's there. The rule's there. You want to put it on someone? Put it on the reporters that go over there and ask them 29 questions or ask him 29 times and he's going to give you the same answer. I have zero problem with the rule. Zero problem.
Well, I think the rule is the reason for the farce in the first place. The reporters are wasting their own time.
Has anybody forced a reporter to go over there?
No, but I would think that if you're a reporter and he's sitting there, you might think to yourself, maybe I will be able to get him to answer one thing.
Then that's on you, the reporter. There's the ridiculousness that you think that. After the third time he gives that answer, you know what you do? Walk away.
So
walk away.
Ray Netchie, who is our producer, is completely on the wrong side of this argument. And
he agrees with me.
Have been having this debate over the last couple of days, and his basic take on it is this. If I may summarize what he was saying to me the other night over dinner, that when you sign this huge contract to play in the National Football League, this is one of the things you are agreeing to, is that you are going to speak to the media, you're going to help promote the sport or whatever it is that you're doing. That's part and parcel of it, and that's the reason for the rule.
When you sign your contract, you sign a contract that says you'll follow the rules of the NFL.
Right.
And that's one of them. Yes.
So I guess I'm asking you, the rules, all right, I'll tell this story again. I know I've told it before, but I think it's worth telling again. A long, long time ago, there was a coach at DePaul University basketball named Ray Meyers. He coached there for decades and decades. He coached George Mikan, and he coached into the 80s. So that's a guy who was there for decades. And by the time I got to Chicago and started covering sports, his son Joey was the coach of DePaul basketball, and Ray would do the games on radio. And before the games, he would sit in the media room and just regale all of us young reporters. I was a 23-year-old kid just sitting there listening to him tell stories. And the story that has always stuck with me is that he would tell us that back in the 40s and the 50s, his first job when the game ended, win, lose, or draw, the second the game ended, he would pick up a phone someplace, he would call the Chicago Tribune sports desk, and he would dictate the box score. Why? I mean, literally sit there, points, rebounds, assists, turnovers, fouls, dictating it in. Why? So the box score would get in the newspaper the next day, because it was free advertising, because it was free publicity for his program. That was the mentality from which rules like this sprung. We don't live in that world anymore. We live in the world right now where the public relations staff, the media relations staff of a pro football team, their job is not to facilitate interviews, it's to protect their players from the phenomenon that has become the American media, or as in this case, the international media. In my opinion, there is no one who is being harmed, no one and nothing that is being harmed by Marshawn Lynch not speaking to the media, and it's a complete waste of everyone's time. I don't think they should fine him. I mean, they should just leave him the heck alone.
It's a complete waste of everyone's time because the reporters stay there. It's not at all. And it's not. You keep saying Marshawn Lynch. I know it's because of Marshawn Lynch. Why? How can you not see the bigger picture? The bigger picture of what if going into one Super Bowl there was this Deflategate that's going on? What if because of that all of the Patriots said, you know what, we're banding together, we're going to sit at our podium, or we're not going to speak to the media. We're not going to do anything. None of us are going to say anything. Hey, listen, would it happen? Probably not. If you open it up for that possibility, could it happen? Could it happen in an AFC Championship game? Could it happen in a division game? Could it happen in Week 6? Yeah, it could happen. It could happen with guys that do talk all the time. All of a sudden, guys, we're going to band together for whatever reason of this happened to us, or we feel it happened to us, and we're not going to talk. You know what? It's the rule there. Sit there. Sit there and just give that answer. I could care less if he gives it. He's the one who looks like he looks and doesn't care whether you want to think, what a pompous jerk, or, hey, he's expressing himself and he can do it any way he wants. That's fine. To me, it's on you reporters, and I'm separating myself from you guys. After the second or third time, walk away. Leave him alone. Don't tell me he doesn't like the spotlight on him when he's doing a couple of commercials for it as well. He's playing his game. So, and the reporters just open right up and say, let me in the door. Let me in the door to play the game too, Marshawn. Let us all look like fools. We're going to try and get that answer out of you, and you're not. He's there doing his signs, smiling, and listen, I'm not ripping him. More power to him. But don't change the rule because of Marshawn Lynch.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't understand the purpose of the rule anymore in the first place.
Then I just gave you a description. You obviously don't agree with it. We're going to disagree on it. It's a rule, and it's not made just for Marshawn Lynch. It's made so a lot of people don't do it or just choose to do it at this particular time or that particular time. I couldn't we disagree completely on that one.
Well, ironically, Mike and Mike is presented by Progressive Insurance, for which Marshawn Lynch has a commercial now.
He does.
Now you can test drive Snapshot to see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. For those of you who didn't get to hear any of it, here was some of the magic that was Marshawn Lynch yesterday at Media Day.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined, so y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to. I'm going to answer with the same answer, so y'all can shoot if y'all please. I'm here so I won't get fined. 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 I'm just here so I won't get fined. I'm just here so I won't get fined. Hey, I'm just here so I won't get fined. Hey, you better make more with your time. You only got 3 more minutes. I'm just here so I won't get fined.
So in case it had not become evident, he was only there so he wouldn't get
And you
fined.
know what? And to his credit, he told everybody what was going to happen when he sat down. He said, "This is how I'm going to answer your questions." And for the statistics, he sat there for 4 minutes and 51 seconds, and when that 4 minutes and 51 seconds was up, he said time, and he walked away. Somebody threw him a bag of Skittles during it, and also he picked up someone's recorder that fell, that dropped on the floor. We have the complete breakdown. And to me, he told you what he was going to do. After the third time he did it, why, you tell me as a reporter, why are you staying
Well,
there?
I don't know how many of those are actually reporters or if they're people who are doing shtick.
Whoever then.
Most of the
Whoever.
people, I guess they're trying to get some sort of shtick. I don't know. I can't tell you
Okay,
the answer.
but
It is.
right.
I completely agree with you. It is a waste of time.
Yes, it's a
you are
waste of
allowing
time.
yourself to be pulled into this
Right.
idiocy. I have no idea why anyone would feed
I'm
into
with
it.
you. Yeah.
Unless if you're there because you're working for someone who is trying to put together something comedic. Or I don't
Right.
even know why.
Right.
I don't know why. Or maybe, I guess on some level it was interesting to see if at any point he would break from that. I don't know. You left out the most important statistic of all, 4 minutes, 51 seconds. He said, I'm only here so I won't get fined 29 times.
Yes, 29
Until
times.
that was
I'm
the
sorry,
total.
it was
You left out
29.
the most important
You're right.
statistic.
And it beat last year. Last year he wasn't even at a podium last year. He was in the stands, and I believe the exact time on that was 6 minutes and 21 seconds. But he fulfilled his obligation. Believe me, there was a whole lot of talk behind the scenes about that. They said, oh, by the way, if he didn't go there for 4 minutes and 51 seconds, he would have been $500,000 lighter in the wallet for a guy who's been fined a few times this year for either no media or, doing his ridiculous, crotch grab thing in the end zone. Which,
Well, that I really genuinely have a problem
I'm
with.
completely with you. It's just ridiculous. But this is there's Marshawn Lynch. This right now. This is Media Day.
All right, and that's what Media Day has become.
Right, yes.
Not only that, then you get the follow-up. You get people giving their opinion on Media Day, like our Mark Schlereth on Marshawn Lynch.
Because you play a pro sport doesn't make you professional, and that's unprofessional. And I understand that he is uncomfortable and he doesn't want to do that, but it is part of every contract signed in the National Football League that you are to cooperate with the people of the media. You are to cooperate because ultimately it's about the fans and it's about growing this game.
So he says that it's unprofessional. Stink will be on our set tomorrow.
Listen, I have that's fine to say it's unprofessional, and I would agree it's unprofessional, but he's allowed to do that. He made himself available, and I don't have a problem if somebody doesn't want to give you the answer that you want. You're obligated to go sit there. You're not obligated to break everything down that somebody asks you. And some people are. Listen, Leon Lett from the Cowboys, when I was playing, he was playing for the Cowboys. He genuinely was nervous in front of the media. Now we know Marshawn Lynch had an incident in college that certainly made him uncomfortable, the way that he was either treated or talked about after. But listen, he's turned this into a moneymaker for himself. It's now with Marshawn Lynch, in my opinion, from what I see, different than the true thing of Leon Lett, who really, truthfully, because I remember after when I was done and I was working here, going to interview him, in a taped interview, Greeny, the nervousness and the sweat that would come down his face, he was genuinely nervous. Now, maybe Marshawn was like that, and maybe he doesn't want to break down what's going on in the field, but he has certainly taken advantage of it. He's there smiling, telling you what he's going to do, doing his commercials. And I'm not saying that's wrong. More power to him. If you can capitalize on the situation, that's what he's doing. So I have zero problem.
Here's Trent Dilfer on Marshawn Lynch.
I'm fine with it. In fact, I think it tells a bigger story about the Seattle Seahawks. And the story to me is this, is that most NFL cultures, they don't celebrate individuality. And the Seahawks have created a culture where they're going to celebrate individuality. There's a lot of different dudes on this football team. Marshawn being at one end of the spectrum, Richard Sherman, Russell Wilson being at the other. Okay? But what they've done is they've said, that's okay. We accept you for who you are. Because who you are is valued in the locker room and especially valued on the field. I have no problem with this. I appreciate the Seahawks supporting him as well.
Yeah, listen, the players have no issue with Marshawn Lynch. They love him as a teammate. This is a blip to this is nothing to them. They're in the locker room with him every day. They know who he is. They're sitting back laughing at watching this.
Yeah, this is,
Sure.
as I've said, it should be nothing to anyone. Marshawn Lynch, in my opinion, is one of the 3 or 4, and I think you could even make an argument 1 most valuable players in the National Football League.
Agreed.
That's my opinion. I've been saying it for 2 years. He's the best player on that team. He's the reason why they won the Super Bowl last year, and he's, I think, going to be one of the reasons that they win the Super Bowl this year, or if they win the Super Bowl.
Right. He'll be a big
What I meant to say that is,
yeah.
if they're going to win the Super Bowl, it's going to be because he has a big day. I think he's the most important player on their offense, and I think he's more important than any individual player on their defense. That's how good I think he is, and so he doesn't have anything to say, and that's just fine with me.
Yep.
So all that part of it is notwithstanding. Okay, so that was the less important observation that came out of Media Day. Good guest list today on the Subway Fresh Steak Hotline. John Gruden today, Dan Marino today, Seth Meyers. Today, our buddy Seth Meyers will be hosting, emceeing, whatever the word is, the awards show on Saturday night here. And then Ray Lewis will be by a little bit later this morning as well. Mike and Mike live from Arizona, brought to you this week in part by Mercedes. Okay, so the less important observation that came out of Media Day yesterday is that the whole thing is just a ridiculous farce and that the Marshawn Lynch thing has reached now epically ridiculous proportions.
Agree with that, yeah.
The other observation that I made, Mike, is the Patriots are loose. And I did not have – I was curious to see coming in. I was actually more interested in Media Day than usual because I wanted to see how the Patriots would appear. Were we going to get a defiant, angry Tom Brady who's just kind of bothered by all this Deflategate stuff? Were we going to get an angry, defiant Bill Belichick who was just shutting everything down? Well, they didn't want to talk about, and they didn't talk about Deflategate, but we didn't get a whole lot of anger out of any of those people, particularly Bill Belichick. For those of you...
Yeah, this was great.
I defy you to listen to this with a straight face. Here's Bill Belichick.
What stuffed animals do I like? I like a little puppet that you can kind of put your fingers in. It's a little monkey, and then he can talk and move his fingers and nod his head, and so he can kind of talk back to you. What's your favorite stuffed animal? Can I ask you one question? Did your daddy fix your hair?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
A hand puppet.
That's Media Day.
Yeah.
Now that was Bill Belichick at Media Day, and he was talking about how his favorite stuffed animal is a little puppet, a monkey that you could put your fingers in, and then you could talk to it.
Yeah.
Now that's funny.
Well, listen, we see it. That's the one thing you see every year outside of people in costumes and people trying to make the show about themselves is you see kids doing interviews. And as soon as a kid comes up to the podium or is brought up to the podium and catches the attention of the player, everything stops. That kid gets to ask his or her questions. In this case, it was a young lady. They get to ask their questions, and they're treated great. I have to say, the players, the coaches, they do a great job when they're dealing with the kids. If it could have been the worst moment for Bill Belichick. He could have been asked his 100th question about Deflategate or hashtag shrinkage, and he would have still done this for the little girl and talked about it. And that's one that I always thought the players and the coaches did a nice job of that because it happens every single time. And this was a little girl asking him what his favorite stuffed animal was.
The little girl was the daughter of one of the players, wasn't it? I think. Was it Jared Mayo's daughter? I think
that
it was.
I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure. I thought I'd heard that. I don't know. I wasn't watching it when it actually happened. I saw it all in when they put together
like a
bunch of clips, a montage, thank you, of all of the different things that happened at Media Day. But anyway, so I mean, if Belichick is willing to talk about how his favorite puppet is like a little, his favorite stuffed animal is a little monkey puppet that you can put your fingers in and you can talk to, it doesn't sound like he's all that upset about hashtag shrinkage.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
One of the genuinely great players in the history of the National Football League, the Hall of Famer Dan Marino is here. How are you, Dan?
Good.
You look
Thanks for having me.
Looks fantastic.
You guys work early. You
fantastic.
guys get up more
Yes,
early.
we do. It's a little earlier out here as well, isn't
I know.
it?
Yeah. I know.
Here's the thing: that Dan is here and he is promoting a Nutrisystem, which he is doing, which is terrific.
Yes.
And the first observation I made was how great you look. The second was the juxtaposition that you are here looking great, having lost all this weight, and Golic is
Was my
welcoming you.
teammate. He was on Dan's team
Yes.
as a Nutrisystem teammate, and also at the Dolphins.
That's
You were on the
exactly
team.
right. So we were teammates twice. And because we did that together and I lost the weight, I'm able to eat what I ate with the Jim Harbaugh
Gatorade,
salad.
I heard that. Yeah.
Gatorade and Fruit Loops.
Yeah, that's different.
That's not a good combination.
You wouldn't think about
No, I
doing that?
just do a Nutrisystem bar in the morning. How's that?
Oh, that was nicely done.
perfect.
Oh, this kid, he's done this before.
Yes, I have, partner.
You've lost a bunch of weight. Looks terrific.
Yes, he does.
Let's do a bunch of stuff here with the game if we can, and then we'll get back to that. I want to talk for a minute about Tom Brady because, you know, the way Brady plays the quarterback position, there's so much going on right now in the NFL. A guy like Wilson, the way he extends plays and the extra level or the extra features that a guy like Aaron Rodgers can bring.
Run around, make plays, throw across his body, all that kind of stuff.
Tom Brady is kind of like you in all candor, which is you know exactly where he's going to be standing, and yet here he is, and no one can stop him, and he's on the verge maybe of winning his 4th championship and 6 Super Bowls. What makes him so good?
Well, you know, the one thing about it is its presence in the pocket. You know, that's the one thing that I always felt that I had a pretty good knack of. And you know, you're not going to run for 15, 20 yards or run around to your left. And, you know, when you're younger, Tom could do that when he was younger, and I could too. But his presence pocket is, you know, when he's inside the pocket, when he's feeling a pass rush, he can move one way or the other, take a few steps up. And then it's also a sense of timing. You know, you have to have a sense of timing with the pass rush and understanding where your guy's going to be, what's the best matchup, and he does it as good as anybody has ever played.
So what game, and before we were teammates, playing against you was difficult because even I, as not a sacker of the quarterback, every now and then.
What do they call you? You were like a plugger.
That's exactly right. But every now and then I would get a good move in. But with Dan, the difference with Dan and Tom, while they're both pocket guys, you could get a greatest rush in the world and Dan still get rid of the ball. He's got one of the quickest releases ever. So when you're a pocket guy, and you just talked about all the things you talked about with Tom, what gave you the most trouble as that type of quarterback?
Straight up the middle. When you get guys, when they get pressure right up the middle in the A gap, A and B gap, you know, and it gets you off your point and maybe disrupts the timing some. When, you know, they're a timing passing, you know, football team. If you can disrupt the timing, then it makes it more difficult. You know, I look back when the Dolphins played them the first week of the year, they beat in the second half, and they got after them. It was all right up the middle, and they knocked their time, and they knocked Tom's timing off. And you know, if I look at Seattle, that's probably when they're going in. They're playing a lot of man coverage, so. That's going to disrupt the timing for the receivers a little bit because they're pretty physical at the line of scrimmage, and if they can get pressure on them, it's going to hurt them in the passing game.
And understand, Greeny, the stat I gave you about Tom not really throwing outside, so if he throws it more toward the middle, if you're bringing more pressure and blitzing up the middle, even if you don't get home, you're in the lanes to possibly block the pass.
And if you make a move, then it disrupts what they're doing.
But what Brady doesn't necessarily want to do, and it may be a function of the receivers that he has or the limitations on the receivers, he's not throwing the ball deep down the field anyway. He's not throwing the ball outside the numbers. They want to work the middle of the field. They want to work Gronkowski and Edelman. How does that go? How does that work against the specifics of this Seattle defense?
Well, the one thing for sure is, you know, Seattle's a team that likes to play single high safety. They'll bring the safety down in the middle for extra help. So they'll try to reroute, you know, their linebackers and their, you know, nickel corners or whatever it may be, reroute the receivers to the inside where they're going to have their help, and then just rely on the corners that are so good on the outside and just let them play one-on-one and challenge him to throw out there.
And certainly any quarterback would love a tight end like Rob Gronkowski to throw to.
Yes, you would.
On the other side of that, what do you think is the best way, and I won't say stop because it's difficult to stop, but to neutralize what he does best?
It's double him. You know, I mean, that's what teams would do is just, you know, make sure that other safety comes down and helps on Gronkowski and make Tom throw to somewhere, a matchup that he might not want to throw to. You know, and that's really what the game comes down to.
Mike, the Patriots are always so chameleon-like. They want to try and find the weakness on your side of the field. Mm-hmm. The Seahawks are one of the great defenses of all time. Do you see a weakness? Where would you try to exploit Seattle?
Well, LeGarrette Blount would be it. You know, I mean, the way they run the football in the playoffs and the way he's a big boy in between those tackles, and the Patriots' offensive line is a good offensive line as far as running the football and being consistent that way. So, to me, that's what it would be. It would be running the ball, you know, and making the third down conversions is very important. And if they can get him going, then it's that's what they're going to need to do.
What do you think of all the kind of wacky alignments they have of guys that a defense? You're so used to a guy saying I'm eligible. You're not used to a guy saying an eligible receiver saying I'm ineligible. So what do you think?
I mean, that they actually came up with it, they practice it, and they use it. I mean, it's an inventive thing,
and it works.
And it works, and it's taken advantage of something that no one really takes advantage of, and they've done it, and they practiced it, and it works, and it's got them to where they're at right now.
Yeah. And a final thought on, I guess we should also ask you, this whole business with this Deflategate that has gone on over the course of the last week. I mean, as a guy who probably threw the football as well as anybody ever, what did you make of that situation, and how much of a factor?
Well, first of all, I mean, every quarterback that's ever played is, from way back. They've always had to, it's kind of your job to make sure the footballs that you're using are ones you like in the game. So, during the week would always, you get 24 balls and then you pick the 12 that you like and you put them in there and then you give them to the officials and then they approve them and then you go. And it's different now where the teams bring, for example, if when Tom comes down to Miami, he brings, his footballs with him. When we play, like if we go to Buffalo, I'd have to rely on Jim Kelly to make sure that, the balls were throwable and they were the way that he liked them. I'm sure they're the way I like them too. So it's a little different, but it's been going on for a long time.
Is this, do you think there's been too much made out of all this, or is there something about this that says, well, even though it didn't affect the game because they were so much better than the Colts, but other than that, is there integrity involved here?
I personally don't think Tom Brady would do something to cheat. Right. I mean, I don't think he'd do that. I don't think he's a competitive guy. He's not that way. Is there an advantage to it? I think sometimes if the ball's a little deflated in bad weather, it's easier to throw.
Mike Dan Marino was with us. The other quarterback, obviously, is one who plays the game completely differently. Russell Wilson, extending plays, all that kind of thing. If there is a key, you think of what the kind of thing that will stop him, because he had a very tough day against Green Bay up until the fourth quarter. What are the keys to making him uncomfortable?
I guess it's stopping Marshawn Lynch, actually, and putting him in a position where he's got to start to make throws down the field in positions where there's third and longs and take him out of that, where he can run bootlegs and things outside the pocket when he has third and short situations. He's a heck of a player. I mean, and you know what I loved about him is, he had a short memory in that last game. I mean, because he threw all those interceptions, but when they had a chance to win at the end, he made the plays that he had to make, and that's what it takes to be a champion.
With their defense, we talk a lot about Richard Sherman. The first game of the season, a lot was made about the fact that Aaron Rodgers didn't throw that way. Was there ever a guy, and you've obviously played against some great corners in your day, did you ever go in with a game plan that said, well, we're not really going to go that way to whatever cornerback it may have been?
Yes. I mean, you do it. It's all about the matchup. If you have a guy, I remember, Mike Caines and Lester Hayes, and we had Duper and Clayton. I mean, and those guys are great, Hall of Famers and great players, but so are my guys. So then I don't mind challenging them. I don't mind going after them. But if it's not those type of players, you try to stay away from them as much as possible because the matchup's not what you really want. And you can do that in this game. I mean, there's ways to do it. But there's definitely times where if it's Deion Sanders, I mean, if you don't have someone that you feel it's going to be a great matchup against someone like Deion, that you just don't throw that way.
Mike and Dan Marino, who, of the many accomplishments, one of the things that maybe doesn't get talked about enough, you are the only quarterback ever to have beaten the 85 Bears. The 85 Bears defense.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
You're the only guy to beat them. You beat them on a Monday night. That was their only loss.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that is just a mindset? I was there in Chicago for that. I felt like people walked out onto the field afraid of them. How much of that is the mindset?
You had a reason to be afraid of them because that defense may be the best defense they ever played. I mean, as far as the talent they had and the way they went after the quarterback, we just matched up well against them because of our personnel and what we were able to do. And the kind of defense they played was the old Buddy Ryan. They used to call it the Bear defense, 46, where they'd have Wilbur Marshall on the outside and Otis Wilson, and they'd blitz those guys off the end. And what we did is we took Nat Moore and made him a tight end, split him out, took our tight end out of the game, went to shotgun, and they stayed in the same defense the whole time and started coming after us. And with Duper and Clayton and Nat and against the blitz, we were pretty good. So the matchup, because of that defense and the way we played offensively, was a good matchup for us.
The other thing, quickly, before we get back to the Nutrisystem, is that you are indirectly responsible for one of the things going on here. You got Pete Carroll fired as coach of the Jets with the fake spike, the legendary fake spike.
I've said that before.
He's done okay for himself.
He's done good. He's done pretty good.
Who knows? He might still be the
coach.
Might still be the coach of the Jets if he hadn't made that play.
Seattle never would have been there.
There you go.
All right, Dan Marino is here, and if you're watching on ESPN2, you might say, boy, Dan looks terrific,
great.
and he does, and there's a reason why.
Well, this Monday actually is the biggest decision diet day for men, because the playoffs were all the football, we're drinking a beer, so Nutrisystem, I've been on it for 6-7 years now and kind of maintained that. Lost 22 pounds. You were my teammate.
Yeah, I lost 50.
What was it called? It was like man food.
That's exactly
that was your part of the commercial.
And I lost the 50 there, and I kept it off.
Yes,
it's fantastic.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Dan Marino here on behalf of Nutrisystem. Be all around. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Dan.
Mike, thanks, man.
Good to see you, man.
Hey, you guys work too early.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, there's some people, our bosses here somewhere, you can tell them. And maybe we can get different hours.
I will.
Great to see you, Dan. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it very
Dan
much.
Marino is here. You remember that game, Mike, the game against the 85 Bears. I really do feel, and part of it is the mentality. You don't go out there afraid of it.
His point is fantastic. They changed up. One thing about Buddy's defense, Buddy ran his defense, and he said, we're going to beat you. There wasn't a whole lot of adjusting. It was, we're going to line up this way and we're going to beat you. And Dan's side of it, your guys was,
corner matchup.
We will make the adjustments, and boy, it certainly worked.
So quickly, because I know you have to go, does that apply any way here? Does any of that apply to this Seattle defense and the mentality? We know what they're going to do. We got to do.
They play a similar defense sometimes, but not really. They really don't. No, they will blitz and go after you, but they'll take their chances at that. But they're not the same style as the Bear defense was back then.
Not that Buddy defense. No.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
The great Seth Meyers, Late Night with Seth Meyers, Northwestern alum and everything else, superstar, of course, on NBC Late Night. And we're going to be on the show with him on Monday, and he'll be here in Phoenix hosting the NFL Honors Show Saturday night, 9 Eastern on NBC. And Seth, if they were giving an award that night, you're going to have MVP and Coach of the Year and all that stuff. If they were giving an award for handsomest player, do you think Dan Marino or Howie Long would win? Which one would you vote for?
Gosh, thank you for involving me in this. I was really sad as I listened to you guys, thinking I was going to miss getting able to weigh in on this. Marino. I like his Pittsburgh good looks.
Seth is a Pittsburgh guy.
Seth is ready to hang up already.
No, he's excited. All right, Seth, here's what it is. Noah, you are a comedian, one of the very best, one of the best at writing jokes about topical humor. And to me, if Marshawn Lynch hasn't just served this up on a plate for you for the week leading up to, and of course your shows are special on Saturday night, I don't know what is. So what is your take on Marshawn Lynch?
Oh, I think it's wonderful what Marshawn Lynch is doing. And again, yes, as a comedian who now has to tell jokes about the year in football, any of these late-breaking, non-violent stories are absolutely the best. But, for me, I do think it's so silly that these guys can get fined for not talking to the press. And, it's so rare that you actually see an interview with these players that makes you really go, oh, that's not something I could have figured out on my own. So, for me, I think we will be on the side of Marshawn Lynch, if anything.
Yeah, again, if Marshawn Lynch did not show up for that media day, he would have been fined $500,000. And I got your subtle, as a former football player, I got your subtle shot across the bow there, Seth, about football players and giving dumb answers. I think that's what you were doing.
I don't actually mean it as a shot across the bow. There's nothing to be gained for football players or any athletes saying exactly what they're thinking. I think we put them in this impossible situation of asking them questions, but also, we rake these guys over the coals if they ever say anything that we feel like is not the sort of thing you're supposed to say. They can't win, in my mind, and we put them in an impossible situation.
Seth Meyers is with us again, of course, late night on NBC, and he's got the special, the NFL Honors Show, Saturday night, 9 Eastern on NBC. He's on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, score 6 at Subway with the new Simple 6 menu. And then, of course, Seth, there was the story last week that was made for comedians like yourself, and obviously your old show, Saturday Night Live, opened up their show with it. What was your take on all of the deflated football conversation?
Well, again, so I'm a Steelers fan. I'm from New England. A lot of my closest friends, almost everyone I grew up with, is a New England Patriots fan. Tom Brady hosts the show. Couldn't be a nicer guy. I met Bob Kraft. Couldn't be a nicer guy. I hate the Patriots. I just hate them. But so anytime something like this happens that makes a team that you already frame as a villain more villainous, it's great because I don't really care that much about the issue at hand. I'm not outraged, but I think it makes for more drama. And I think for the Super Bowl this year, it's very clear good versus evil, at least for the Super Bowl, which is good. And I mean, our only regret is that, this story happened 2 weeks ago. So by the time we tell our monologue, it'll be a little raked over. So I think we'll probably only make 15 to 100 jokes about it.
So okay, you're doing the NFL Honor Show. Here's the thing: with all the award shows out there, the Oscars and the Golden Globes and all those with the actors and actresses, and then the hosts get up there and they do their open and they rip people in the audience. But ripping George Clooney, there's no fear that George Clooney is going to tough guy on anybody. You know what I mean? That we're going to be intimidated by what he might physically do. So you're going to be in a room full of football players, and if you want to throw out some barbs, there's that thought process. These are some large people. So what's your thought process behind that? You still taking your shots?
I think when we do the sound check, what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out who the fastest athlete is and time how long it would take them to get from the audience to where I'm standing during the monologue. And that way I'll know exactly after each joke how much time I have to get off stage. I will say the big difference between athletes and actors is probably that athletes have a little bit of a thicker skin, and you can probably speak to, there's not locker rooms on movies. So I think you could probably tease athletes. The threshold of what they're willing to take is probably a lot bigger. So I've found, when I've hosted the ESPYs, going after athletes is one of the most fun parts of the night, mostly because everybody else enjoys it so much. And up to this point, I've never run into a bad sport at one of these things.
That's right. You've done the ESPYs at least twice, if I recall. So you have your fun with that. You've done a million of the entertainment type of shows. And then, of course, you did the White House Correspondents' Dinner also. So on the list of good sports, where do politicians, up to and including the President of the United States, fall on that landscape?
President Obama, a very good sport, I found. With that said, he's sitting on the dais with you, so, that's the real, how far can you push it? He's literally right next to you. And he brings a staff of people with guns, so that you really have to draw the line. He has a full staff of armed people who go with him. But, I would say Obama, very good sport. Worst sport I've ever run into, Donald Trump. He's definitely, and I think he'll hold that championship belt for a long time.
Why does Donald Trump hate you, Seth?
Well, I told multiple jokes about him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner that year. That was sort of when he was pretending to run for president and talking a lot about birth certificates and the like. And that sort of fell into my lap, just like Marshawn Lynch. Like, sometimes you just have really good timing when you do these things. Something happens that everybody's talking about, and obviously the fact that he was there made it all the more fun.
All right, now the very best thing before we let you go again, Seth is on his way out here. Saturday night, 9 Eastern at NBC is the NFL Honor Show. Seth will be hilarious because he always is, and then they're going to name the MVP and all that kind of stuff. So very worthwhile. But the best thing of all, Seth, I pray that you've seen this, is that because Northwestern, your alma mater and mine, beat Notre Dame in South Bend in November, Golick had to pose for that Kim Kardashian butt photo, which was all over the place. We'll bring it to the show when we're on your show on Monday. But where would that win rank on your list of the greatest Northwestern sports moments?
Well, it wasn't quite beating Notre Dame back in '95. But then, of course, we didn't have the Golick photo, so that kind of evened it out. I'd say it's 1 and 1A.
That was definitely a highlight.
Yeah, I think he's done on the show. I think
no, absolutely not. We're on our way again. We will see Seth. Everyone
I had to unfollow you both on Twitter for a week after that happened because I was afraid to see that picture again.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, many people did. It's Late Night with Seth Meyers, of course. Every night, late night on NBC, and then he's here Saturday night for the NFL Honor Show. And then we'll see you Monday to recap the Super Bowl on your show. So we look forward to it. Thank you, Seth.
Thanks, Seth.
All right, guys. Thanks in advance for coming. I can't wait to see you.
best of Mike and Mike.
Bubba, let me know when you're ready whether I should have given you a heads up. I want to play the Brandon Browner stuff, and we'll get to that. So Browner, for those of you who are not aware, is the former Seattle Seahawk. He was a member of the Legion of Boom. He got hurt. He didn't play a whole lot during their great year last year in their Super Bowl run. When they went to the White House, the president did not mention him.
Did not, right.
He was very hurt by that. He subsequently wound up in New England this year, where he's had another very good season. So he was being interviewed by our Josina Anderson, talking about the injuries on the other side, about Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas being hurt, elbow and shoulder, his old teammates and friends. And it raised a lot of eyebrows when he said this.
Those dudes are tough. Like, watching the game, you see Sherman was, holding that arm like he had a sling on it. But at the end of the day, this is about the Super Bowl. I'm going to tell my teammates, go hit that elbow. Go hit that shoulder.
Oh, you're going to tell them to go?
Most definitely. Hit it.
Okay.
Yeah. Try to break it if you can, You're going to be my best friend after the game, but at the end of the day, I know you want the Super Bowl just as bad as I do.
Now, a lot of people were surprised by that, maybe a tad put off by the break it if you can part of it. I've heard some people say, well, why is that different from the Saints? Why is that different from Bountygate? Go out there and try and hit him. Go out and hit him where he's hurt. Go out there and injure another player. Mike, when you heard Brandon Browner say that, what was your reaction?
To me, it's not. To me, what Greg Williams said when we heard that tape in the locker room didn't shock me at all. Guys say stuff like that all the time, and what is inferred from it or meant from it, you take what you want. But they got in trouble for that. Brandon Browner wouldn't need to say that. If I'm getting ready to play them and he doesn't say a word, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find a way to test Sherman's elbow. I'm going to make him tackle. I'm going to find now to test Earl Thomas' shoulder again. You make him tackle. He's going to do that anyway. But the bigger picture, exploiting another player's injury. Are you kidding me? Really? If an old lineman is coming out there and he's got his elbow wrapped, guess what I'm hitting? I'm hitting his. You call it whatever you want. Go ahead. But that's what I'm doing. And people are doing it. I'm not saying I'm grabbing it and twisting it. I'm saying in the course of a play, I'm going to test a person's injury. And that's all he was saying. He wasn't saying it's one of those situations where he said it. What you say about Richard Sherman, he says what people sometimes won't say.
Yeah, he says what other people are thinking and don't have the guts to say.
Everybody's thinking that. Everybody's saying, okay, this guy, hey, by the way, when you're watching film, by the way, remember, this guy's got a bad shoulder. Remember, this guy's got a bad knee. This guy's got a bad elbow. We're not saying go out, grab it, twist it. We're saying if you can exploit that injury, if you can emphasize that injury through a play, make him tackle you. If you're a wide receiver and you're doing a swim move, the first part of the swim move is hitting something with the one arm and swimming in the other arm. Hit him in the elbow. Now, that's easier said than done. It's very difficult to pinpoint one spot and get a shot on it, but to exploit an injury? Give me a break. That's done all the time.
Absolutely. It's done in every way, in every sport. I remember, how many years ago was it, Ray? What did Rajon Rondo have? Did he have a broken hand or he had a broken wrist or something in the end? Remember in the NBA playoffs and they were going after him and they were hacking at him? Was it an elbow?
Do it all the time.
I forget what he had.
Absolutely.
And they were hacking at him.
Sure.
And there were people saying, well, you can't do that. That's sport.
Stop it.
That's not, that to me, that's not only is that not over the line, that's not even approaching the line. He had a dislocated elbow. Thank you. And that is taking advantage of the other team's weakness.
Without a doubt.
And the old adage is as follows. If you're hurt, don't play. If you play, you're not hurt.
That's exactly right.
So if he's healthy enough to be on that field, then they're going to go at him. And if he's not, then, and it becomes a hindrance, then it becomes the job of the coach to say, you know what, Richard Sherman might be the best player in the league, but I can't have him on the field right now.
First and foremost, let me go to those guys. And a lot of players are like this, but we saw it right in front of us. A lot of people, so many people play hurt. But Earl Thomas dislocates his shoulder, goes in long enough to get a brace to come back out and play. Richard Sherman didn't miss any time, and I knew exactly, and those are so painful, the hyperextended elbow, put his head down, ran back on the field, and played. They're tough as nails, but you exploit that. And I know people always said go break it. I mean, that's what you say. That's what you say. But you're going to go try and exploit that injury. And if it hurts him more, hey, so be it. That's life. That's tough. That's sports.
That's sports. Exactly right. You wake up on the bright side. Guys get hurt, and then the next thing you know, you wake up on the bright side, which you can do, as brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites, taking care of you so you can take care of business. Book now at LQ.com. Richard Sherman did respond. Bubba, let me know when you're ready. We'll play the Sherman because Sherman knew exactly what he was talking about. I wouldn't imagine any of the Seahawks would have had a problem with it. Here was Richard Sherman's response to Brandon Browner saying that.
Yeah, there's definitely an understanding. He's funny, man. BB doesn't always put things exactly how he means to put them, but, knowing him and knowing who he is as a person, we understood what he means. He's just a competitor. He wants to win, and we can respect that.
I tell you what, when Richard Sherman first reacted the way he reacted last year when he broke up the Crabtree play and put them in the Super Bowl, I thought, I don't like this guy. I did not like, forgetting the interview we did with Aaron, I didn't like how he ran right over to Crabtree in that moment. I thought that was bad sportsmanship. I thought it was rubbing in. I didn't like it. I have come to decide Richard Sherman might right now be the most interesting player in the National Football League.
He's very interesting. And listen, I'm with you. I'm not saying I like everything he does, but listen, he backs it up on the field. You talk about walking the walk, or talk the talk, you better walk the walk.
No question.
He does that. So I'm not a fan of everything he does, but the bottom line is I worry about what's on the field, and the man can play.
And I also believe he is one of the most genuinely interesting and intelligent players in the NFL.
I agree with that.
I really, you're talking about how Seth was joking around about how most things that get said at media day are not worth hearing. Richard Sherman is one of those guys. Whether you like him or you don't, when he talks, it's worth listening.
The best of Mike and Mike.
It's time for another edition of Love It.
Oh, this is fun.
Or Shove It with Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio.
All right, so here we go with Love It or Shove It, which means our board operator, Brendan Bubba Peregrine. He'll go through some of the headlines of the day, and we'll decide if we love them or shove them, brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Tired of overpriced razors? Join DollarShaveClub.com. Get amazing razors delivered for a few bucks a month. Good morning, Bubba.
Hello.
How did we make out with the snow back there in Connecticut?
Not too bad. We're still digging out, about 10 inches or so here in Bristol.
It seemed to be a little less than what was predicted.
Yeah, I think some places in the eastern state got 33 inches. So it definitely hit Connecticut hard, just depending on where you were. Right. We kind of lucked out in Bristol.
You weren't where it was. All right, let's do it. Love it or shove it. The headlines of the day. Bubba, go.
All right, another title will make the Seahawks the best defense of all time. Love it or shove it.
Well, I'm going to shove that. Listen, they're a great defense, and I know as soon as I said that people, are going to lose their minds. I think they're a great defense and can be talked about as one of the great defenses. You give me a one-year defense, hard-pressed me not to go to the 85 Bears. You give me an all-time defense over a number of years, hard for me not to say Pittsburgh Steelers in the Steel Curtain for a number of years there. But, what they're in is the team picture, as you like to put it. That 1 year of the Ravens in 2000. People always say, Golick, why don't you give your Eagles defense more credit? Because you know what? We didn't win rings. And that has to be part of it. Yes, we were a great defense. We were a great defense. And we had great players, but we didn't get rings, and that's part of it. So I think it starts with teams that got rings. And I'd say 1 year 85 Bears. I love the 2000 Ravens for over a time period. I'd say the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Seahawks will deserve to be talked about, but I would not say the best defense of all time.
I wouldn't either, but here's where you're going to make the biggest argument for the Seahawks, is that they are playing in an offense-dominant era, more than any of the other defenses that you're talking about. Look at the numbers in pro football today, the offensive numbers that it seems practically every quarterback is putting up. And if they're winning championships in that era and beating Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in the Super Bowl to do it, then they're staking a claim. Would I say they're the best defense of all time? Definitely not. But if you wanted to make an argument for them, you probably could. Bubba, next.
All right, for the Patriots, another title will make Tom Brady the best quarterback of all time. Love it or shove it.
I'll shove that, and I'll put in the word accomplished quarterback, and then I would love it, because I think he would be the most accomplished with 6 appearances and 4 wins, and just how well he plays, in money time in the postseason. The best quarterback of all time, this is kind of like the Seattle defense. You can talk about him in the conversation, but I would not pick him as the best quarterback of all time. But I would pick him as the most accomplished quarterback of all time, which certainly puts you into discussion.
Took the words out of my mouth. The most accomplished quarterback of the Super Bowl era. Bart Starr and Johnny Unitas and Sammy Baugh and Otto Graham and all of those guys deserve a place in this conversation. But they played in an era of football that was different from what it is now. At minimum, the world sort of views football as we know it today as starting with the first Super Bowl. So in that time, no one will have accomplished more than Tom Brady will have. I wouldn't pick him to win a game or a playoff run or a season or anything else. But he will have accomplished more than any of the guys that I would. So if you want to make an argument for him, you definitely can. Bubba, next.
All right, a lot going on in golf right now. We got Tiger's Tooth, the Robert Allenby story, and, oh, by the way, a pretty big tournament right there in Arizona. So the PGA this weekend, love it or shove it?
How do you not love it? I mean, especially which hole is it?
The par 3 at the end.
I love the hole where everybody goes, where it's a Happy Gilmore atmosphere.
But as far as Tiger's Tooth and the Allenby thing, I mean, I don't know what's going on.
Isn't it amazing?
So Tiger goes to see his girlfriend Lindsey Vonn break this record in Italy, and the pictures appear everywhere of him missing a front tooth. It's very noticeable. And his explanation for it, which is very simple, that a cameraman hit him and knocked it out, is being now completely disputed by the officials there at the ski race in Italy. Now, I have no idea what happened or didn't happen, but it strikes me as odd. No one was suggesting anything terrible happened.
Right.
So the fact that there is this conflict in stories, I don't understand. Now, the Allenby thing is insane.
Isn't it? It's amazing.
For those of you not following it, he says that he thought he was drugged and thrown in the trunk of a car and beat up and hassled and thrown out. And people are disputing the story. Then he had a press conference to say that every single thing that he said is true as best as he knows it. What the heck is going on with that?
It is amazing. It really is amazing.
So do I love it or shove it? Honestly, I shove it. I mean, I don't like it. These are not good stories for the world of golf. I mean, for there to be some question over what happened to Tiger Woods' tooth is probably not a good thing, and the Allenby thing is obviously an awful thing.
From that side of it, I agree with you. From the side of actual golf and such, I'm loving it. It's here, and the fact too that after the round tomorrow, Darius, our buddy, is playing, and we'll get to go see that.
Bubba, next.
All right, the NBA slam dunk contest and three-point contestants were announced yesterday. Love it or shove it?
You got to split those two.
Yeah.
The three-point contest is awesome.
Yeah.
It's exactly the guys you want it to be. It's Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Kyle Korver, and if I saw the list, I forget who else was on it, but it's all the guys you want to see.
Right.
The slam dunk contest is a disaster.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
Now, again,
none of the guys you want to see.
We say disaster, which is certainly unfair to the guys because you might get incredible dunks, but we said this all along. Player X can do an unbelievable dunk. LeBron James or insert other star here could do the exact same dunk, and people will lose their minds over it.
You know, they had pretty good stars last year.
I agree.
John Wall and guys like that.
I wasn't a real fan of the way they ran the whole
format
thing.
Was awful.
Did not like it at all.
We were in the arena when it happened, and when he won, we didn't know he had won.
We had no idea it was over.
Until they started handing him a trophy, we didn't realize it was over.
I didn't like that, and it's a shame because these players that you really don't know, it might be incredible what they do, but it lacks the big name. But the three-point, I'm with you. It has some of the best three-point shooters we have out there.
I actually like the three-point contest better anyway. I think the three-point contest has become the most exciting part of the All-Star Skills competition. I mean, you know, if you get a transcendent dunker,
once the dunk started falling off, the three-point, you know, they were right there. Because you also have the guards going through the obstacle course.
Yeah, I still like that. I like that, the point guard challenge. I like it when they have the three-person teams, the Legend and the WNBA, and they shoot the three from half court.
I like that, too. I do like that.
Chris Bosh last year, a jumper from midcourt.
I enjoy the weekend. I enjoy NBA All-Star Weekend, the best of them all, and the least thing I like is the actual game on Sunday. I like everything else.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNRadio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Why do we snack? Hunger? Taste? Because we have nothing better to do? Well, people who snack on almonds not only have something better to do, they're doing it. Almonds are heart health for those with heart. Packed with energy to keep up with anyone. It's that one-of-a-kind crunch that promises to keep you in the game for a long time to come. California almonds. Crunch on.